Hey guys, tonight we're headed somewhere warm. Not metaphorically warm, literally warm. You're stepping barefoot onto soft, mossy earth that puffs steam with every exhale. The air smells like sulfur and herbs. Around you, the ground is alive with breath. Plumes of mist drift lazily between flax bushes and gnarled trees. You've arrived in the geothermal wonderland of Aotearoa, in the heart of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Don't worry, your boots aren't melting. Yet this is a landscape shaped not just by tectonic plates and volcanic moods, but by generations of Maori families who've learned to live with and cook with the earth's bubbling personality. That sizzling sound beneath your feet? It's dinner. Or at least it will be, if you stick around long enough to see the process unfold. Though let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive this without a local guide, a strong stomach, and a very forgiving sense of direction. This place doesn't come with signposts. Just hot pools, hidden vents, and names whispered through steam. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start by walking slowly across the thermal plain. The ground beneath your feet is firm in some places, suspiciously springy in others. Every so often you pass little wooden signs carved with warnings: do not enter, steam vent active, or the ever ominous unstable ground. All the signs point to the same conclusion: you are not in charge here. The earth is. And right now, it's cooking dinner. You pass a small cluster of low buildings with gently sloping thatched roofs. In front, a wide open area bordered by stacked logs and flax bundles marks the preparation site. Several women are peeling kumara sweet potatoes, the color of dusty ochre, while others are setting woven baskets into shallow pits lined with lined, damp cloth. You're offered a smile and a seat, and in true dreamlike logic, no one questions your sudden arrival. A soft voice tells you this land has been used for generations. Some say the steam fields are gifts from Maramoko, the god of earthquakes and volcanoes. Others just call it the old way of making dinner. Either way, it's hot, it's natural, and if your nose can be trusted, it smells fantastic. You pause to look around. The air shimmers with warmth. A nearby hot spring bubbles like a pot left too long on the stove. The trees rustle gently in the steam breeze. Everything is soft-edged and slow-moving. Even time seems to simmer here. The method is called Hangi. It's both a cooking technique and a communal ritual. The word itself evokes softness, earthiness, patience. This is not fast food. This is food that requires the heat of the planet and the help of a village. Historians still argue whether the technique originated solely in Polynesia and was adapted to New Zealand's geothermal quirks, or if it evolved independently as the Maori settled and adapted to the volcanic environment. Either way, it's a perfect fit for this sultry, breathing ground. You crouch beside one of the baskets. Inside are neatly layered chunks of meat, lamb, chicken, even fish nestled among root vegetables and wrapped in cabbage leaves. Everything is arranged like a gift. There's care in each placement. You wonder how many combinations were passed down across generations. Which wood imparts the best flavor? Which stones heat the most evenly? Which cousin you can trust not to forget the salt? You run your fingers along the edge of the pit. It's smooth, damp, and smells faintly of iron and earth. There's no metal involved, no aluminum foil, just natural elements working in harmony. The baskets are made of flax and vine. The cloths of softened leaves are reused fabric. Even the tools are simple wooden paddles, stone weights, and the occasional elbow. The steam swirls around your face. You breathe in, slow and deep. There's meat, yes, but also something herbal, floral even. It's a comforting smell, like laundry done in rainwater, or soup simmering 6 rooms away. You close your eyes and try to bottle the scent in memory. Nearby, a group of children chase each other through low plumes of mist. Their laughter rises like a melody over the muffled landscape. An elder chuckles softly as he stirs a large clay bowl with a carved wooden spoon, muttering something about, "Don't let them near the hot springs again." You chuckle too, even if you don't quite understand. The vibe is universal. Kids will be kids, especially when dinner's still an hour off. A woman nearby leans over and adds a few more herbs to the top layer of one basket. You ask gently, in your mind, what they are. She smiles without turning and answers, just enough to remind the meat where it's from. Quirky? Sure. But also kind of poetic. Above you, a faint curl of steam twists toward the evening sky. You feel it in your joints, in your bones. The heat here isn't oppressive, it's almost personal. Like the land is gently nudging you, stay, rest, eat soon. So you do. You settle into a crouch, elbows on your knees, watching the last of the baskets disappear beneath a final layer of flax and soil. The feast is officially underway, and you've got a front row seat. The earth murmurs beneath you, slow and constant. Somewhere under all that layered soil, the Hangi is beginning to do its work, gently coaxing flavor from meat, softening every fiber of root and tuber, steaming everything into submission. It's like SnoozeBy. If SnoozeBy meant burying dinner in the backyard and trusting the volcano not to get too enthusiastic. You stretch your legs and lean back on your hands, feeling the ground's warmth radiate into your spine. It's not a heat that burns. More like the kind that seeps into tired muscles after a long day, like sitting on the sun's lap, but politely. Nearby, someone begins humming. It's a soft tune, older than memory, drifting up through the mist. The kind of melody that sounds like it belongs to the steam itself. You can't hum along, but you nod gently, letting the rhythm settle behind your eyes. The group isn't in a hurry. There's nothing frantic here. Just careful preparation and patient waiting. A younger man walks past carrying a heavy wooden board stacked with leaves, slips slightly on a damp patch, and lets out a muffled curse that sounds suspiciously like cheeky rock. You try not to laugh, but it bubbles up anyway. Food cooked in the ground takes time. Several hours at least. That's the point. You're not just cooking. You're gathering, storytelling, napping in short shifts. You're giving the land time to do what it does best. And you? You're starting to feel very okay with that pace. You wander a bit, shoes squelching gently through the softened earth. To one side, there's a steaming pool, ringed with stones darkened by decades, maybe centuries of use. Some are smooth, others etched with shapes, spirals, waves, lines that lead nowhere. Symbols left by hands long gone, or maybe just artistic fidgets while waiting for dinner. Historians still argue whether these marks held specific cultural meaning or were just the result of people with idle hands and warm rocks. Either way, they're beautiful in their mystery. You kneel beside the pool and dip your fingertips in. Warm, not scalding. The kind of heat that makes your knuckles sigh. The surface trembles slightly, disturbed by your touch, then settles again. You wonder how many people over the centuries did the same thing, checking the water, not for temperature, but maybe just to feel connected. Behind you, someone begins speaking in soft Te Riombori. It's melodic and firm, spoken more to the air than to anyone in particular. A kind of blessing. Or maybe just a recipe told like a prayer. The wind shifts and brings with it a stronger smell. Meat, mostly. Lamb, maybe pork. Something rich and grounding, cut with a green edge from the herbs and leaves layered on top. You didn't think you were hungry, But your stomach makes its own decisions. And while this might seem like rustic cooking, it's far from random. The process is guided by generations of practice. Stones are heated first, traditionally volcanic ones that won't crack under heat. They're layered into a fire pit, then covered with wet cloves or banana leaves to create steam. The food sits on top, often in baskets or cloth bundles. Then it's all covered with more layers, dirt, leaves, maybe even soaked Hessian sacks in modern times. The trick is balance. Too hot and the food scorches. Too cool and it just sulks. But when done right, everything cooks evenly, slowly, perfectly, like the earth itself decided to cater. Some modern archaeologists speculate the geothermal cooking technique evolved partially out of necessity. Firewood in some regions wasn't always plentiful, especially in volcanic zones where vegetation struggled. Why burn logs when the ground could do the work for free? Others argue it was never just about efficiency. It was about relationship with the land, with tradition, with each other. Because let's be honest, if dinner takes 4 hours and you have nothing to distract you but conversation and singing, you'd better get along with your neighbors. You walk a little farther and find another pit, this one older, unused for years. The stones are scattered, the edges collapsed. Nature is gently reclaiming it. Still, you can see the shape of it. A history of dinners past. You picture a long ago evening. Laughter, steam, maybe the occasional argument over whose turn it was to peel the taro. Quirky detail. In some coastal areas, fish heads were considered a delicacy and placed carefully in the center of the pit to absorb all the juices. Not your usual table centerpiece, but hey, zero waste and full of omega-3s. You sit near the edge, resting your chin on your knees, and listen to the world thrum. No phones, no timers, no fridge magnets. Just earth, warmth, and the slow shift of heat. A woman walks past with a clay jar filled with water from a nearby stream, its surface catching the last light like a liquid mirror. She nods as she passes. No rush, no need for words, just acknowledgement. You are here. You are part of this now. Your fingers drift to the soil beside you. It's damp and dark, full of little roots and the occasional stubborn pebble. You dig in gently, letting the dirt sift between your fingers. It smells like patience. Like something slow and alive. The sky is changing color, now soft lavender with streaks of salmon. The mist turns golden in places. The shadows lengthen, curl, fold into one another. The village feels quieter, wrapped in its own quiet anticipation. The earth hums beneath you, steady and calm. The Hangi sleeps, slowly crafting something rich and ancient beneath your feet. And you, for once, have absolutely nowhere else to be. You shift a little, still seated near the edge of the old pit, your weight pressing gently into the soft soil. The heat from the active Hangi not far away mingles with the cool dusk air brushing against your neck, creating a perfect balance like sipping warm broth on a chilly evening. Somewhere nearby, a dog huffs softly, thumping its tail once against the ground before settling deeper into whatever nap it's pretending not to take. Dinner isn't ready. Not yet, so you wander again carefully, quietly between small structures shaped from woven thatch and dark timber frames. Some are homes, some are storehouses, and one, just slightly larger and ringed with stones, might be used for gatherings, or perhaps for carving. Inside one of the open huts, you spot something familiar yet ancient. A long, hollowed-out log. Drum, ornately carved along the edges with swirling, serpentine patterns. It's resting on 2 thick wooden supports, its surface smoothed by years of palms and sticks tapping out rhythms for songs and ceremony. You run your fingers across it. The edges cool to the touch, the carving sharp and intricate. Scholars still debate whether such instruments were used mostly for communication between settlements or purely for ritual music. Probably both. Probably neither. The line gets fuzzy when your culture measures time in ancestors rather than hours. Theirs. A boy may be 10 or 11 hunched over a piece of bark nearby, drawing something with charcoal. His hands are stained black up to the wrists, and his brow furrows in concentration. A few quick glances reveal an intricate pattern. Spirals within spirals, repeating triangles, and something that might be a bird or a wave. You compliment him. With a small nod, and he beams like you just handed him a gold medal. But he doesn't stop working. You remember learning that Maori art is never just decorative. Every swirl, every notch, every shape has a story, a genealogy, a memory encoded into geometry. It's the original family tree, drawn in symbols and passed down by hands that remembered more than they ever said aloud. You don't know what this kid's story is, but judging by his focus, it's probably a good one. Someone calls from the clearing. You turn, and across the misty field, 3 people begin to carefully shift layers of earth from the Hangi pit. Steam rolls up in thick waves, curling around their shoulders like shy ghosts. The leaves are lifted back, revealing a woven mat layered with bundles. The aroma hits instantly rich, herbal, almost smoky. Your mouth reacts before your mind can stop it. They move slowly, methodically, lifting the parcels one by one, some filled with meat wrapped in cabbage leaves, others with taro and kumara that still glisten from the steam. A few bundles are tied with strips of flax to hold in smaller, juicier things, maybe shellfish or chopped greens. The whole process is done in near silence, not out of reverence but efficiency. Everyone knows their part. You don't need orders. When you've done this since before your grandfather's grandfather could walk. Watching, you wonder how long it would take you to learn the rhythm. How many years before you could dig the pit just deep enough, heat the stones to the right glow, layer the leaves and cloth in perfect order, and not once need to check a written recipe. One of the women, elderly, with a frame shaped by decades of bending and lifting pauses, stretches her back and wipes a hand on her tunic. Her expression is calm but alert, the way someone might look at rising bread or the clouds before a rainstorm. You imagine she's seen thousands of Hangi pits in her life, and yet still treats each one like a child who might misbehave. She motions. You closer. You step forward, cautious but honored, and she gestures toward a smaller parcel resting on the edge. With practiced hands, she unties it and folds back the leaves. Inside is a hunk of golden kumara, a slab of pork so tender it collapses under its own weight, and a few green strands of seaweed laid gently on top like garnish. She smiles, hands it to you on the same cloth it was wrapped in, and nods once. That's the whole ceremony. The first bite is hotter than expected. You inhale quickly, trying to hide the way your tongue is doing the dance of don't single quotes t-say dash, single quotes s-burned. But then it hits flavor so earthy, so complex, you're momentarily convinced someone snuck in a spice rack. But no, it's just time and heat and tradition doing what they do best. You chew slowly, appreciating the softness of the kumara against the meat's savory richness. The seaweed adds a whisper of salt, like a memory of the ocean. You glance around to see others doing the same, eating quietly, without ceremony, but not without attention. This isn't a feast in the royal sense. No golden plates, no trumpets, just dinner. Real, warm, shared. Somewhere in the distance, a baby starts crying. It's quickly soothed with murmurs and the gentle swish of fabric. You don't see the child, but it doesn't matter. The sound fades into the night like everything else. Steam, songs, footsteps in the grass. Quirky detail. In some traditions, A special rock is placed at the center of the pit, one that holds symbolic meaning or ancestral connection. It doesn't cook anything, it just watches. Like a warm little guardian, buried in the dinner it protects. You lean back on your elbows, belly full, heart oddly heavier than you expected. This wasn't just food. It was memory made edible. History, cooked into flesh and root. The stars begin to show through the thinning sky. A slow procession of ancient lights, steady and unblinking. You spot a few constellations, but not many you recognize. These are southern skies, different rules, different stories. Somewhere above, someone else might be pointing to the same patch of sky and calling it by a name you'll never learn. But still, it glows just the same. You close your eyes and breathe. Deep, earth, smoke, meat, mist. It's a cocktail no candle could ever recreate. The evening isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. There's more to see, more to feel, and maybe, just maybe, another bite of pork waiting in the shadows. The air is denser now, packed with smoke and satisfaction. Your hands still carry the scent of earth and roasted greens, a kind of ancestral seasoning that no soap truly removes. You lick a bit of pork grease from your thumb and rise slowly, stretching legs that have grown heavy from warmth and food. All around you, people are reclining in loose clusters, talking, chuckling, some just staring into the steam that still rises from the freshly opened pit. You drift back toward the prep area where the earlier flurry of activity has stilled. Large woven baskets kere, their flax patterns sturdy and simple, lie stacked neatly to one side, their duty done for now. A few people are crouched nearby, gently wiping down cutting stones with damp leaves and laying out knives made from obsidian or sharpened bone. There's a rhythm to it, quiet, methodical, intimate. This isn't cleanup. It's part of the cycle, the unspoken promise that this will all happen again. Someone hands you a peeled kimura. It's warm, skinless, and still steaming slightly. You nod a thank you and hold it delicately, not quite ready for another bite, but not willing to put it down either. It feels like holding a small, edible ember. Maybe you'll eat it. Maybe you'll just carry it around like a weird root vegetable pet for a while. No one's judging. You wander to where a few people are rinsing out bundles of harakek flax leaves used earlier for wrapping. The rinsing is done not just to clean them, but to keep them pliable for weaving and reuse. Water from a small thermal spring has been redirected here by hand-dug trenches and smooth stones, channeling warm water like some ancient spa plumbing system. You dip your fingers in, expecting a scald, but it's gentle, like steeped tea, perfect for aching joints and philosophical thoughts. Historians still argue whether these geothermal features were treated as practical blessings or spiritual entities if the boiling water was simply handy or holy. Most likely, it was both. You can't spend a lifetime cooking dinner in the breath of the earth without feeling like you're being watched by something. The next job, you learn, is not one of necessity, but pride, preparing the next round of ingredients. Because tomorrow, or maybe in a few days, another feast will be needed. Another pit will be lit. And everything must be ready, not just for survival, but for continuity. A younger man, shirtless, his shoulders freckled from sun and steam, begins laying out bundles of gathered produce. Kumara again, but also taro, yams, and several unfamiliar roots with names that twist in your mouth like vines. You offer a hand and he nods, handing you a rough stone scraper. Your job: remove the outer layer without gouging the soft middle. Simple, tedious, kind of hypnotic. As you work, you glance around. Near the edge of the field, a group of elders sits in a circle, weaving long strands of harakek into tighter cords, soon to be used for tying, binding, maybe even fishing. One woman is spinning dried plant fiber against her thigh, her fingers flying almost too fast to follow. You wonder how long it took her to get that good. Probably about as long as it takes you to peel a single yam without turning it into abstract art. There's something in the pace that soothes you. You're not in a rush. No timers, no ovens, no alarms blaring that dinner is ready. Everything responds to heat, moisture, pressure, and time, just like people. And speaking of people, a few children burst from behind a fern hedge, one of them shrieking with laughter, the other two chasing after with exaggerated stomps. They vanish into the mist with the enthusiasm only small humans possess when thoroughly sugared or well-fed. One drops a carved stick and doesn't notice. You pick it up. It's shaped vaguely like a lizard or a canoe, or maybe a lizard in a canoe, it's unclear. Either way, it fits neatly in your palm and smells faintly of wood smoke. You keep peeling. Your hands work without needing your full attention now. The rhythm is natural. Scrape, turn, flick. The skin curls away like paper, revealing the pale flesh underneath. You wonder if people ever did this while singing. Probably. Everything is easier with a song. And you could use one now, not a performance, just something simple. A voice carrying. Across the clearing, you glance toward the cooking pit again. It's covered now. A new batch rests under layers of cloth and soil, beginning its slow transformation. Steam curls up through cracks like silent prayers. A man beside you starts humming, not loudly, just a low tune, circular and wordless. He keeps weaving while he does it, the flax bending to his will. You don't recognize the song, but your body seems to understand it anyway. You nod along, almost against your will. Quirky detail. In some older traditions, food placed in a Hangi pit would sometimes include small personal tokens, carved figures, feathers, even strands of hair intended as blessings or tributes to ancestors. Not to be eaten, of course. Just to say, this meal remembers you. You pause and look at the kamara in your hand. There's nothing special about it, but now you wonder, has it been blessed, whispered over, planted by someone who no longer walks this earth? You don't know. And somehow, that mystery makes it taste better. The sky darkens. Torches are lit, not big ones, just bundles of resinous wood smoldering in carved holders. The smoke is thick, fragrant, and surprisingly insect repellent. A small mercy. You've got enough on your hands without offering yourself as a mosquito buffet. One woman sets down her weaving and walks over with a cloth bundle. Inside are herbs wild. Mint, kawakawa leaves, a few small red berries. She opens one nostril with her thumb and snorts a berry like it's no big deal. Her eyes water. She grins. You pass on the offer. The night stretches on. You scrape another yam. You feel a part of something old. Something that doesn't need to announce itself with monuments or brass plaques. Just steam, soil, songs, food, and the hands that prepare it. The prep is done. The next feast is buried. You wipe your palms on your tunic and rise, the night air brushing past your cheek like a soft question. Still awake? Yes, you are, but not for long. The stars are out now, at least the ones brave enough to show their faces through the gentle hiss of steam that still blankets the landscape. You tilt your head back and catch sight of the Southern Cross, faint and reliable. There's no hum of streetlights, no headlights flashing through trees, just the quiet presence of geothermal breath and the soft crackle of flames from a few nearby torches. Tonight, the air has settled into that perfect equilibrium. Warm where the ground exhales, cool in the open patches between the vents. Somewhere someone is laughing in the distance, not loud, but with that rich, rounded tone that only happens after food and firelight. You can't quite hear what was funny, but it doesn't matter. You smile anyway. Your feet crunch uncrushed. Pumice as you wander toward one of the elders, an older man kneeling beside a wide, shallow pit. He's stacking rounded stones in a deliberate pattern, smaller ones at the bottom, then medium, then larger at the top. His hands move with slow certainty, like he's done this 1,000 times and has no plans to stop now. You crouch beside him, watching. The stones are flecked with black glass obsidian, maybe, and streaked with mineral lines that gleam in the torchlight. He pauses and gestures for you to help. You reach for a stone, heavier than it looks, and place it awkwardly onto the stack. He grunts, adjusts it an inch to the left, then nods. Progress. This isn't just rock collecting. These are the heart of the Hangi. The stones will be heated for hours until they're glowing hot, then dropped carefully into the earth pit to surround the food bundles and cook them evenly, low and slow, like some divine slow cooker powered by volcanoes. Historians still argue whether the design of these pits varied based on region, spiritual belief, or available rock type. Some pits were circular, some rectangular. Some had elaborate drainage systems to manage groundwater seepage. Here, it's practical, honed through trial and error and probably a few overly crispy kumar.u, and the elder continues stacking. No one speaks. The silence isn't awkward, it's sacred. Just the sound of stone meeting stone, of fire breathing. Behind you, of a bird calling once and then thinking better of it. Then comes the firewood. A younger group arrives, arms full of dry manuka branches and strips of fern. They arrange it around and beneath the pile like building a bonfire backward. Once lit, the flames will slowly heat the entire stack, transferring the energy into the rocks. One man lights a bundle with a flint. It sparks, sputters, then catches with a little roar. The fire climbs eagerly up the branches, licking the lower stones. The elder nods again and rises, joints popping with the slow rhythm of years. You follow, brushing your palms on your trousers and blinking as the fire grows hot as the stones begin to heat. You walk a wide circle around the fire, watching others prepare in tandem. A group of women sit under a low awning weaving new mats from dried flax used to wrap food bundles or line pits. Their fingers move swiftly, with that signature speed that comes only from doing something thousands of times. You notice one mat that's striped with old stains, smoky orange, rust brown, faint smudges of charcoal. It's not dirty. It's seasoned. Nearby, another pit has been uncovered from an earlier cook. The stones are cooling, scattered slightly as if trying to crawl back into the earth. You kneel down and pick one up warm, not hot. Its surface is cracked with tiny lines, like aged skin. You wonder how many feasts it has been part of. Quirky fact: the Maori once used specific stones only once or twice before retiring them, believing overuse made them brittle or tired. Some stones were even ceremonially returned to rivers or mountains when their cooking life was done. Culinary retirement, ancient style. You toss your warm stone gently between your palms, then set it back down. The air has grown fragrant again. Someone is smoking eel over a low fire near the hot pools. You catch a whiff of fat, salt, and wood, and your stomach grumbles again in defiance of physics. You shouldn't be hungry, but your nose has other ideas. You meander back toward the stone fire. The flames are taller now, the lowest rocks beginning to glow faintly. The elder is back, this time with a long stick he uses to nudge the stack gently, coaxing the heat through every layer. His eyes squint in concentration, or maybe in memory. Another man appears, carrying a bundle of soaked cloths. These are crucial. You'll use them to layer over the hot rocks before adding the baskets of food. The cloth keeps the heat in, but prevents charring. Think of it as ancient SnoozeBy meets pit barbecue with geothermal supervision. The cloth smells like fern and water and something slightly sweet. Maybe sap, maybe leftover squash juice. Either way, you help lay them out to dry slightly before use. There's a rhythm to all of it, and your body is starting to memorize the moves. The moon is higher now, slipping between clouds like it's playing hide and seek. You catch it once, mirrored in the sheen of a still hot spring. You stare too, long, and trip over a log. You recover with only your pride injured. A nearby girl giggles behind her hand. You bow dramatically. She applauds. All is forgiven. Someone passes around mugs of warm tea infused with kawakawa and something floral you can't quite place. It tastes like mint if mint had a secret identity as a forest druid. You sip gratefully, letting the steam warm your nose. Mainstream fact. The geothermal region of Aotearoa and Top G has been used for cooking by Maori communities for hundreds of years, with archaeological evidence showing continuous use since at least the 14th century. The ground has fed people longer than most countries have had borders. You finish your tea and hand the cup back. No plastic. No paper, just carved wood, passed down or freshly whittled. It feels real in your hand, heavy in a way that reminds you not to toss it aside. The fire still crackles. The stones pulse red. The wind moves softly through the ferns, carrying the warm breath of the earth in your direction, and somewhere in that rhythm, in the pop of the firewood, in the flicker of shadows across flax mats, in the hush of waiting hands, you feel yourself begin to slow just in time. The real cooking is about to begin. You crouch low beside the fire now, watching as the final pieces fall into place. The rocks are nearly glowing, some tinged with orange, others chalky white from heat. They hum with stored energy, and you can feel it on your skin like standing too close to an oven door. But this oven was born from the land itself. You half expect it to speak. Voices drift through the steam as more people gather near the cooking pit. There's a sense of ceremony here, not religious exactly, but reverent. The Hangi is both meal and moment, and you're in the middle of it. Time slows. Your thoughts soften at the edges. Now the pit must be carved. The soil here in the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona, would never allow this kind of heat cooking, but here, in Aotearoa, it's practically begging for it. Volcanic soil is crumbly, forgiving. It welcomes steam and heat, then holds them gently, like a patient elder tucking in a child. A group of men and women begin digging into the ash-covered earth with wooden spades and woven baskets, shaping a shallow pit about the size of a dining table. You step forward and lend a hand, scooping aside dark, sulfur-scented soil. Your fingers sting slightly from the residual heat, but you don't stop. You're part of this now. As the pit takes shape, you help smooth the bottom and line it with wet cloths, damp leaves, and soft ferns. The cloths hiss faintly as they touch the heated rock base, releasing earthy scents that mingle with steam and smoke. A woman beside you sprinkles something into the pit, maybe salt, maybe dried herbs. She doesn't explain, and you don't ask. Some things don't need translation. You notice how carefully the pit is shaped, rounded at the bottom, with low, earthen shoulders designed to help channel steam upward without letting it escape too quickly. It's clever, purposeful, not just a hole in the ground, but a carefully engineered heat chamber born from centuries of trial and adaptation. The rocks are added next. Using long wooden poles like giant chopsticks, the glowing stones are placed into the pit one by one. Some crack slightly from the change in temperature, but that's expected. A few break open, revealing bright veins of crystal and flecks of old lava like tiny stars embedded in ancient memory. As the base layer of stones settles, someone calls out in Te Riombori. Baskets appear neatly woven, round, and shallow. Inside each, layers of food sit bundled in leaves. Chunks of lamb, cuts of fish wrapped in kelp, kamara dusted with spice, and pale rounds of taro. You spot a few wild greens folded into flax pouches, along with what looks like slices of eel. A generous feast designed for slow hours and satisfied bellies. One by one, the baskets are lowered into the pit. You help with the small one, your hands. Careful not to tilt it. The base steams immediately as it touches the stones. A fragrant hiss escapes, and your mouth waters again, despite already being well past your third snack of the evening. The layering begins. More ferns are added, then soaked cloths, then mats. The entire thing is swaddled like a sleeping infant, not too tight, not too loose. Just enough to keep the steam in and let the heat rise slowly through every piece of meat, root, and green. You help tamp the edges with soft soil, sealing the heat like an ancient oven door. It's oddly satisfying, like finishing a giant communal puzzle. Once the final layer is packed, everyone stands back. Now the earth does the work. There's no clock, no timer. Just intuition, shadows, and sky. Some elders glance upward, reading the light. Others check the angle of a stick embedded in the dirt, its shadow creeping like a sundial. It's part science, part magic. Historians still argue whether traditional Maori cooking times were passed down verbally, marked by songs, or simply known in the bones. Probably all three. You wipe your hands on your pants, streaked with ash and soil. Around you, the mood shifts. With the food buried and the heat locked in, the waiting begins. This part is slow intentionally so, nothing rushed. You're reminded again that the world doesn't always need to sprint. People settle onto woven mats. Some sip tea, others stretch out and rest. Children play with sticks and feathers near the steam vents. A dog wanders through, tail wagging, then flops dramatically on its side. You sit cross-legged, letting the warmth of the pit ease into your spine. Nearby, someone plucks a few strings of a wooden instrument, 3 notes, maybe 4. Not a performance. Just something to fill the hush. You feel the music in your chest more than your ears. It fits. And here's your fringe fact for the night. Some early Maori communities used geothermal pits not just for cooking, but for storage and even bathing. Natural hot tubs, so to speak, some even believed to have healing properties. A dinner party and spa day, all powered by the earth's belly dot. As you close your eyes for a moment, you catch the scent of crushed kawa leaves still clinging to your fingers. The steam in the air turns that scent into something holy. When you open your eyes again, it's nearly full dark. The torches have been relit, casting dancing shadows against tree trunks and stone outcrops. The pit remains undisturbed, hissing, softly like a dream whispering in its sleep. You feel the heat radiate beneath your feet, steady and deep. There's no sound of cooking, no sizzle, no boiling water. Just steam, trapped in earth and leaf, doing its sacred work. Your stomach growls. Quietly, but you don't mind. The wait is part of the ritual. The hunger, the slowness, the steam, they're all ingredients too. The steam rises in thin ribbons now, barely visible in the torchlight. You kneel once more near the sealed pit, palm resting on the warm, packed soil above the hidden feast. It's like putting your hand on the chest of a sleeping animal, gentle. Heat, slow breath, and the suggestion of something stirring underneath. No one speaks loudly. The hush has taken hold, the kind that arrives when everything important has already been done and all that's left is time. You trace the edge of a flax mat with your toe. Earlier, these mats were woven with brisk fingers and quiet determination. Their broad leaves soaked and stripped, then worked into tight diagonals and gentle folds. The steam basket covers, you're told, are reused until they fall apart, often passed down from parent to child, just like cooking knowledge, just like songs. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. You once stood in other kinds of kitchens, dry ones, built from stone and adobe, with wood fires licking the edges of pottery jars. You remember the smell of maize and cliffside. Dwellings, the faint scent of yucca smoke curling up to sandstone ceilings. And yet, this steam-filled circle, surrounded by green ferns and volcanic hiss, feels like it's speaking a similar language. Earth-cooked food. Shared heat. Ancient. Rhythm. A young girl walks by carrying a woven basket filled with folded cloths. She stops beside the pit, glancing at you before placing the basket near a tree. She doesn't speak, but smiles as she goes. Later, those cloths will be used to handle the steaming hot food when the pit is opened. For now, they wait with the rest of you. You rise and stretch your legs. Your knees creak loudly enough that a nearby elder chuckles softly. "That's the volcano telling you it approves," he says, then leans back against a tree trunk with a sigh. You grin and nod. Sure. Why not dot as the last of the light fades behind the trees? Torches and small fires become the only glow. Stars begin to arrive hesitantly at first, then in clusters. Someone mutters the names of a few constellations. You recognize none of them, but you like the way the names sound, soft vowels brushing against consonants like leaves on water dot beside. You, an older woman, hums gently. Not a full song, just the trailing melody of something half remembered. It matches the moodlight, old and slow. The pit emits a steady warmth, like a geothermal heartbeat beneath your crossed legs. You lean forward, eyes half-lidded, trying to imagine what's happening beneath that packed earth. Are the fish oils bubbling into the taro? Is the lamb melting at the bone? Is the kumara softening into sugary perfection? You won't know until the unveiling, but your imagination is running a few bites ahead. You pick up a handful of soil nearby. It's dry on top but warm and damp just beneath. The volcanic earth here is mineral-rich, always changing. You think of the ancestors who once stood on this same patch hundreds of years ago, perhaps wearing similar flax cloaks, holding similar baskets, glancing at a sky filled with identical stars. Historians still argue whether Hangi cooking techniques evolved gradually or were imported during the earliest waves of Pacific migration. What's clear is that this method, earth oven meets geothermal wisdom, isn't just cooking. It's cultural memory, buried and warmed. There's a lull in the fire circle now. Someone offers you a steaming drink, herbal, bitter, and surprisingly sweet at the end. You sip it slowly, the cup made of something bark-like, slightly rough around the rim. Another joke floats through the group, this one about someone trying to steam a coconut and accidentally melting their best sandals. Everyone laughs, not loudly, but like they've heard it before and still find it charming. Steam continues to wisp from the edges of the sealed oven. The scent has changed. It's deeper now, richer, like the earth is breathing meat and spice. Your stomach groans again. It's not subtle. Someone next to you rubs their hands together and stands. Soon, they say. You nod, watching as others begin to rise too, gathering tools, carved wooden paddles, long-handled tongs made from polished branches, and woven trays lined with softened bark. One of the men taps the earth lightly with the base of a digging stick. It makes a dull, thudding sound. He listens, nods, and says something you don't catch, but it's clearly the signal. The time has come. The group moves in, not with frenzy, but with focused care. You're handed a cloth and motioned toward the corner of the pit. Together, the group begins peeling back the earth. First, the topsoil, dry and dark, cool to the touch. Then, the cloth mats damp, heavy and steam-kissed. You help lift one, and a burst of scented vapor rises, striking your face with an almost overwhelming aroma. Roasted greens, sweet kumara, earthy root vegetables, Fatty lamb and charred sea salt. The heat rushes up from below, fogging your vision for a second. You blink and smile. It's like someone just opened the lid on a centuries-old secret beneath the mats. The baskets are still in place, their contents transformed. The meat glistens, the leaves have darkened to a glossy green, and the air is thick with an almost syrupy warmth. Everything looks somehow too beautiful to eat, and yet very, very edible. You help lift one basket out with thick cloths. It's surprisingly heavy. You set it on a flat rock and pull back the final wrapping to reveal perfectly steamed taro slices, glistening with oils. Next to them, fatty slices of lamb, practically falling apart. You inhale again, unable to help yourself. There's something primal about the smell, ancient comfort, smoky sweetness, a whisper of minerals. Fringe fact break. In some parts of Rotorua, natural steam vents are so powerful they've been used to cook not just meals, but to sterilize tools and tan animal hides. Some families still maintain personal steam boxes in the earth near their homes. The other baskets follow, each one met with small murmurs of admiration. No fancy plating, no sprigs of garnish. Just food, heat, and joy. You step back as the meal is laid out on bark platters and wide leaves. There's no need to shout that it's time to eat. Everyone knows. You catch someone's eye across the steam, and they nod. Your hands are still warm from the pit. Your face smells like dinner. Your stomach is ready. Let the feast begin. You sit back slightly, letting the steam from the newly unearthed Hangi rise around your face like a gentle fog. It smells rich now, an aromatic blend of sweet roots, rendered fat, and the earthy tang of smoked leaves. You feel like your entire body is leaning forward, nostrils first. No plates are passed. No formal line forms. Instead, a slow rhythm settles in, one shaped by mutual understanding and muscle memory. Elders are offered first pickings, of course. They don't move quickly, but that doesn't matter. Nothing here is in a hurry. You reach for a piece of Kumara golden. And steaming, its skin wrinkled like parchment. The inside is soft, sweet, and smoky, like the sun decided to retire inside a root vegetable. You bite in and immediately understand why this has been done the same way for generations. It doesn't need salt. It doesn't need butter. It needs nothing at all except time and the patient heat of the earth. A few feet away, a child balances a piece of meat on a carved wooden paddle, waving it like a sword before being gently scolded. By a smiling auntie, you smile too. The night is calm, warm, and humming with the low chorus of satisfied chewing. You find a place to sit near one of the low fires, just a shallow dip in the ground filled with embers and ringed by rounded stones. Someone tosses in a handful of damp bark, and the smoke curls upward in lazy spirals. It smells faintly of eucalyptus and pine resin, not overwhelming. Just enough to keep the midges off your ankles. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona, you've eaten beside dry riverbeds and desert bonfires meals of roasted beans, blue corn mush, or rabbit stew. And you remember how food always tasted better when it was slow, when it was shared. When the moonlight glinted off pottery rather than plastic, tonight carries that same feeling. You glance around. Every face is relaxed. Some mouths are full. Some are still smiling from earlier jokes. No one is checking the time. No one is thinking about inboxes or laundry or algorithms. The steam has erased all that. A man beside you picks up a shell and scoops a portion of fish from a nearby basket. He nods as he eats just once, but with conviction. You try it too? The fish is flaky and soft, its flavor pulled deep from the minerals in the cooking stones. You're not even sure what kind of fish it is, but you want more. The woman across From you offers a poundful of something purple and glistening. You take it politely, chew thoughtfully. It's a kind of fruit, tangy and sticky, with a flavor that almost feels familiar, plum maybe, or something related to tamarind. You ask what it is and she smiles. Something the trees forgot to name. Historians still argue whether certain native fruits were domesticated deliberately or simply gathered in cycles and shaped by taste over generations. Either way, your tongue is convinced. You take another bite. A breeze picks up and you pull your woven cloak tighter around your shoulders. The heat from the fire helps, but the night carries a chill now, one that sneaks in gently and settles at your elbows. You don't mind. It makes the food taste better. In the shadows beyond the main circle, you spot a few people resting on their sides, heads propped on rolled cloaks or bundled flax. Not asleep, exactly. Just full. At peace. Digestion is a sacred act. It turns out. Someone starts to hum again. This time, it's different, not a lullaby, but something older. The tune weaves through the air, brushing past ears and settling in chests. Others join in, quietly, forming a gentle wave of sound that seems to rise from the earth itself. You look up. The stars are fully out now. Crisp and endless, they hang like quiet promises above the steam. You wonder how many people looked up. At the same sky after a hangi, belly full, heart warm, breath fogging slightly in the cold. A boy sits cross-legged near the fire, carving something into a piece of soft wood. You lean closer. It's a fish, simple but elegant. A single curved line for the spine, little notches for scales. He doesn't look up, just keeps carving, the way people have done for centuries when conversation lulls and hands still need to move. You think about how many stories must have been told around these fires. Not just myths and legends, though you're sure those are coming, but also the mundane ones. How uncle tripped into the hot pool. How someone mistook a pukako for a chicken and regretted it. How a favorite flax mat got chewed by a very smug dog. These small stories, shared and reshared, become part of the land too. Folded into the hills like fern roots. Etched into cooking stones. Softened into sleep songs. Fringe fact, in some traditional Maori communities, certain food items like longfin eels or tie-dye, mutton birds, were wrapped not just in leaves, but in family-specific patterns of flax weaving. These subtle details help mark which portions belong to which extended family, making the feast both communal and personally rooted. Your eyelids dip. Not fully, just a little. The full belly, the heat, the music, it's all conspiring. Gently against your wakefulness. You don't fight it. Someone passes you another piece of roasted taro, this one crisp on the outside, creamy inside. You eat it slowly, savoring the balance of flavors. You could be anywhere or anyone. The group begins to quiet further. Not because of sleep, necessarily, but because of fullness. Because the steam has done its job. Because the earth has fed you and the night is ready to hold you. You sigh deeply, letting your spine melt toward the dirt. And all around you, the warmth rises. You stay where you are, wrapped in that woven cloak, belly full and breath slow. The fires have burned down to a red glowing hush, flickering in the corner of your eye like a memory not quite ready to sleep. But sleep can wait because now someone is speaking, not loudly, not like a performance, but with the kind of low, rhythmic voice that people lean into without realizing. It's the old man again, the one who sliced through pork with the calm precision of a surgeon. His face is half shadow, his hair long and tied back with flax twine. His words come gently, woven between pauses like lines of a fishing net. He's telling you about the old recipes, not ones written in books. There were no books, but the kind that lived in the hands and tongues of generations. The kind you could taste in a single bite of steamed cabbage leaf or smoked eel. The kind that could tell you what season it was, or which cousin was good at gathering shellfish, or who always burned the yams. He gestures to the empty baskets beside the Hangi pit. They're woven tightly from Hurricane New Zealand flax and still faintly glisten with steam. You imagine them filled again, not with leftovers, but stories. Recipes that begin with first, ask your auntie, and end with ... unless the dog gets to it first. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona, food memory works the same way. No glossy cookbooks, just oral hand-me-downs. How to roast cholla buds, when to harvest peanut nuts, how long to soak corn ash for nixtamalization. Survival, yes, but also ritual. Also pride. The old man continues, sharing the names of herbs once gathered near geothermal vents, Whatamoa, Karamiko, Kawakawa, each with a purpose: to soothe, to spice, to remember. Some were crushed into drinks. Others were tucked under the tongue like tiny, pungent promises. The women listening nod knowingly. A few smile. He mentions how food wasn't always just eaten. It was offered placed on carved altars or floated on woven mats into hot pools. A way of acknowledging that nourishment came with responsibility, with gratitude, with a whisper of superstition and a dollop of logic. You shift slightly, repositioning yourself on a warm, flat stone. A young girl near you hums quietly while stacking shells into a spiral. She looks focused, like the spiral must be just so, or else the stars might unravel. Nearby, a few of the older women begin listing ingredients aloud, not in a chant, but something close. Fern root, dried Karango seaweed, the skin of smoked fish. The list flows like a lullaby with a grocery list tucked inside. Historians still argue whether some of these food traditions were reserved for ceremonial use, or if every dinner was, in some way, a ceremony. Was the division that clear? Or was daily life simply that intentional? You nibble the last piece of smoked sweet potato in your hand. It's sticky now, slightly cool, but still delicious. It tastes like a secret, one that took hundreds of years to season properly. Quirky fact: some geothermal areas were once reserved for women's cooking spaces, not just for practicality, but as part of gendered spiritual divisions. Cooking with the earth's breath, it was believed, connected women more closely with the Wenua, the land that gave birth and heat in equal measure. The group falls into a companionable silence again. You close your eyes for a moment, still, chewing slowly. When you open them, a thin trail of steam snakes upward from a crack in the earth just past the fire ring. It's illuminated by starlight now, soft and surreal, like breath rising from the planet itself. You imagine the first people who cooked this way, who touched the ground, felt the heat, and said, "Yes, here," who gathered stones and wove baskets and slowly discovered that earth could be not just shelter, but stove. And you wonder what it must have been like to taste that first bite. Not because it was perfectly seasoned, but because it worked. Because it didn't kill you. Because it made you stronger. The girl finishes her spiral of shells and leans back proudly. One of the women places a feather in the center and pats the girl's shoulder. A ritual? Maybe. Or maybe just a moment. You stretch your legs slightly, careful not to disturb the embers. The warmth radiates up through your calves. Your eyelids flutter. Not quite sleep. Not yet. But close. The old man has stopped talking. Or maybe he's simply passed the story on. Because now the boy with the carved fish is humming again, and the rhythm picks up among the others like wind curling through grass. You catch one phrase that repeats. Kai ote wanua, kai ote a. Food of the land, food of the world. You think about all the foods you've eaten that claim to come from nature. The plastic packaging, the factory logos, the vacuum-sealed freshness. And then you compare it to this. A piece of lamb so tender it weeps, pulled from beneath steaming soil, cradled in flax and ash. It's not about rustic aesthetics. It's about slowness, trust, knowing that if you wait, and if you're gentle, the land will feed you. Another woman mentions how some families would mark Hangi spots with carvings, simple etched, stones or sticks wrapped in dyed fiber, not for decoration but as memory. This was Uncle's favorite spot. This was where Nan burnt the fish, and we never let her forget it. This was the patch where the ground always steamed a little hotter in spring. You look at the steaming crack again. Is that someone's favorite spot? Has it always been? How many meals have been born there, cooked in silence and eaten with laughter? The group begins to gather scraps. Not with plastic bags or trash bins, but with hands and baskets and efficiency. Nothing is left behind. Bones are buried, embers scattered. Steam is let out like a sigh. A man near you gathers a handful of volcanic sand and sprinkles it over a wet cloth. The cloth sizzles slightly, then cools. It's folded and placed into a pack made of leather and braided fern. A portable napkin from another century. Your eyes droop again. The steam has faded slightly. The heat is gentler now, but your skin still remembers the warmth, and your breath still carries the sweet smoke. You lie back once more. You don't want to leave the circle just yet, and you don't have to. The ground is still warm beneath you, like a low, steady heartbeat thrumming through layers of soil and time. You don't rise just yet. No one does. It's as if the entire gathering has entered a post-Hangi hush, a collective exhale, stomachs full, minds slowed, eyes soft in the FIRELIGT. But soon, a stirring. Someone stands. Then another. Not hurried. Not with ceremony. Just the quiet movement of people who know what comes next. It's time to open the second pit. You didn't realize there was a second one. But of course there is. The first was the main meal. The second? A kind of dessert course, or maybe just overflow food cooked slower, deeper, richer. The earth's patience distilled into flavor. They begin to pull back the layers, the soil first, then the damp cloth, then the flax mats. Steam rushes up in a lazy cloud, curling around ankles and faces, momentarily obscuring the scene like a passing ghost. You lean in. The scent hits you first, heavier, sweeter. Something fermented, something rooty. Like slow-roasted taro and damp. Sugarcane had a baby and let it nap in smoke for 8 hours. You watch his hands. Bare but careful, reach in and pull out the baskets. They're smaller this time, more tightly packed. You spot dark leafy bundles tied with twined dessert parcels of sorts. Others contain slices of sweetened kumara, the caramel edges glistening like amber in the firelight. One basket is unwrapped. With extra care. Inside, a neatly layered pudding of crushed nuts, honeyed fern root, and mashed banana, an old favorite for special nights. It wobbles slightly in the steam, proud and absurdly fragrant. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. You'd find a counterpart to this moment in the cooling of Horno-baked pies or the lifting of the adobe oven lid tamal bundles steaming with anticipation, or roasted pinyon nuts crackling as they're pulled from fire-warmed clay. One man begins to ladle out small servings into hollowed gourd bowls. He offers one to you, grinning without a word. You accept it carefully, the outside warm, the inside dangerously hot, and peer inside. Something sticky, something soft, something vaguely spiced. You take a bite. Okay, that's a flavor. It's not what your modern tongue expects. There's no refined sugar, no chocolate drizzle, no pastry crust with flaky golden layers. But there's warmth. And earth. And the taste of something made by memory. Instead of instruction. It's chewy, Dense, comforting. You eat the rest slowly. Nearby, a group has begun to pass around tiny woven pouches of dried fruit gifts for later. A woman tucks one into your cloak, patting your shoulder like she's known you forever. Inside you find slices of apple, plum, and something you can't quite place, chewy, tangy, wrapped in a faint whisper of smoke. Try not to lose it, she says with a wink. We don't have extras. You nod solemnly, as though receiving a sacred relic. Which, to be fair, this might be. Quirky fact. Some Maori groups believed certain foods cooked in geothermal vents held extra spiritual energy, infused by the earth's breath and the ancestors' approval. Sharing that food was more than hospitality. It was a way to transfer well-being mana from one body to another. Someone nearby pulls out a jaw harp, yes, really, and begins to play a slow, twanging rhythm. It's subtle, just enough to hum along with the wind. The sound is both ridiculous and weirdly perfect. Historians still argue whether certain food preparations in Maori culture were considered sacred rites or simply elevated routines. But what's clear even now in the way people eat and serve and sit together is that food is never just fuel. It's memory. It's medicine. It's community shaped by appetite. You find a flat rock again and sit, dessert bowl resting in your lap, licking the sweet mash from your fingers without shame. Everyone else is doing the same. Even the old man, though he pretends not to. The fires burn lower now, more embers than flames. Someone adds a single branch, and it crackles like a polite cough in a quiet theater. You glance around and see heads leaning together. Not for dramatic conversation, just proximity. The kind that says, "This has been a good day." A breeze slips through the trees, rustling the flax and making the baskets shiver slightly. You pull your cloak tighter. Not from cold, really, but from instinct. You don't want to leave this warmth, this softness. A small boy stands up and announces, "My cousin swallowed a hot rock once." Everyone laughs. Someone else throws a handful of sand at him. Light-hearted teasing, part of the ritual. A shared dessert of stories and silliness. The man with the pudding gives a speech. Not long, not fancy. Something about the land providing. Something about remembering who first taught you how to wrap taro leaves properly. Something about not letting the younger generation mess up the spice ratios. Everyone nods like this is the most profound thing they've ever heard. You finish your bowl. A woman takes it from you and washes it in a steaming spring behind the gathering, humming softly as she works. You want to help, but she waves you off. You're a guest, she says. Your job is to remember. You will. You do. You remember the way the earth smelled when the pit opened. You remember the hand that offered you the bowl. You remember the odd but oddly comforting texture of honeyed root mash. You remember the pouch of dried fruit still tucked near your chest, and you remember the quiet, because that's what returns now, full and thick. Not silence like absence, but silence like presence. Like a warm blanket laid across a full stomach and a full heart. A few people are already lying down, backs to the stone, eyes half-lidded. Others are still talking in low voices, sharing one last joke, one last bite. You lie back again. The stars have fully claimed the sky. The steam rises in gentle columns like ghosts exhaling. The earth hums. You are safe. You are full, and you are exactly where you're meant to be. Someone stirs the coals with a long stick, sending a fountain of glowing sparks into the night air. They rise slowly, flickering like lazy fireflies before fading into the darkness above. You trace their path with your eyes until they vanish brief. Bright moments swallowed by the sky. Then, a signal. 3 soft drum beats. Not loud. Not urgent. Just enough to make people lift their heads. It's time to move again. Not for chores. Not for cleanup. Just for being together. The kind of togetherness that doesn't require much conversation, just quiet presence. You follow. The group as they rise, stretch, gather their cloaks and baskets, and drift toward a nearby clearing already ringed by woven torches stuck into the soil. Their flames flutter gently, casting golden halos on the faces gathering around them. Take a place in the circle. Someone offers you a wooden mug, warm, fragrant, slightly sweet. A fermented drink of some kind. Earthy, tangy, with a whisper of ginger or perhaps something older. You sip slowly. This is the part of the night you didn't know to expect. No more cooking, no more feasting. Just the deep hum of social rhythm pulsing through bodies and stories alike. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona, similar rhythms might have unfolded around canyon fires, ancestral pueblones murmuring tales beneath stars, Hopi families reciting clan histories while sipping spicy rabbit broth under pinyon trees. Every culture has its night stories, its moonside gatherings, its version of this stillness. A boy steps forward, his voice cracking slightly as he begins a chant. It's not long, a few verses, a tune both wavering and steady. People join in on the chorus, but not loudly. It feels like something meant to echo, not boom. When they finish, an elder steps forward. He wears a cloak the color of scorched flax, and feathers tucked into his hair, each one weathered and significant. You can't tell if the designs on his cheeks are soot or tattoo or both. He doesn't shout, doesn't command, just begins. The story he tells is slow, winding. It loops back on itself like a fern unfurling. You lose the thread a few times, not because it's boring, but because the rhythm of his voice lulls you into that soft focus headspace where time slows and words become more like mist than meaning. You catch moments. A taniwa, a water creature, curled beneath a river stone. A girl who outsmarted the moon by hiding in the shadow of a kamara field. A man who sang his canoe through a thunderstorm by humming to the wind. It doesn't matter if you understand it all. What matters is the way the story moves, the way it's received. There are chuckles, nods, the occasional gasp, even a gentle ha from the grandmother next to you when the taniwa gets tricked for the third time in a row. Quirky fact. Some Maori stories are deliberately told with gaps, pauses meant to be filled in later, sometimes by another storyteller. It keeps the tale alive, makes it breathe and change, like steam slipping between fingers. The fire cracks again. You shift, feeling the warmth soak into your spine. Another child is coaxed forward. She's tiny, swaddled in a wool cloak too big for her, but she holds up a carved stick and begins reciting a short genealogy, just a few names. Names you don't know, but which clearly mean everything to the listeners. Someone wipes a tear. Not dramatically. Just a quiet swipe of the thumb beneath one eye. Historians still argue whether oral histories were memorized in fixed order or adapted to suit the occasion. But everyone agrees. This was the archive. These were the bookshelves. This was how the past survived, not etched in stone, but spoken by firelight. The wind picks up slightly, fluttering the torches. One leans too far and snuffs itself out with a soft hiss. No one moves to relight it. It's part of the rhythm. You take another sip from your mug. The fermented taste has mellowed now, or maybe your tongue has simply caught up. You let it sit in your mouth a little longer, feeling the warmth coil through your chest. Another elder begins to chant, not a story this time, but a lament. You don't know the words, but the feeling is unmistakable. It's not sad exactly, more reverent, like someone remembering a name they haven't spoken in years. The group joins in with a hum. You hum too, softly. You don't know the melody, but your voice merges anyway, barely more than a breath. You glance up and see the stars clearer now. The steam has thinned. The fire, though lower, still glows steady. And around it, people lean together. Not because they have to. Not because it's cold, but because this is what humans do. Gather, tell stories, pass cups, and wrap themselves in sound. The boy who sang earlier falls asleep in his mother's lap. She strokes his hair with absent-minded tenderness, still listening. To the old man's tale about how the clouds used to argue over who got to wear the sun, you smile. Your body is tired in the best way, limbs heavy. Head loose on your neck, thoughts slowed to a simmer. The kind of tired that says, you've eaten, you've listened, and now, maybe, it's okay to close your eyes for a minute. But not yet. One more story, one more voice, one more sip, then you can sleep. You're not sure how much time has passed, but the fire's burned low and the torches are mostly just gentle embers. There's a haze in the air, now not smoke exactly, just the lazy swirl of heat, conversation, and lingering song. It wraps around the group like a second cloak, one made of sound and breath and memory. The clinking of wooden mugs has slowed. People lean against one another. A child snores lightly, cradled in a bundle of worn flax. Someone pokes at the edge of the fire with a stick, not to stir it back to life, but to watch the sparks dance one last time before the flames settle into embers. And still the stories ripple on. You settle in beside a group that has moved slightly uphill, away from the hearth. They sit beneath a crooked pohutukawa tree whose branches fan out like open hands. Here, there's no firelight, just the moon, which now hangs fat and drowsy above the steaming land. This circle is smaller, colder. The energy has shifted. It's not that the stories are darker, just deeper. A little quieter, a little slower. Like the storytellers are speaking to the earth itself now, not just to each other. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states, such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. Puebloan elders once gathered in similar hushed circles after sunset, sitting in stone courtyards where the fire had burned low and the air was finally cool. There too, tales were told not just for fun but for memory, for guidance, for grounding. A woman with long gray hair begins speaking. Her voice is soft, tired maybe, or just old enough to not bother rushing anymore. She talks about a food trade that took place before her great-grandmother's time, how the Iwai would exchange smoked eel for sea salt, dried fern root for obsidian blades, how everything moved and everything was shared, even if the journey took weeks. She holds up a small carved pendant strung on twisted cord and says it came from a village 2 mountains away, and that no one knows how long it took to arrive, only that it was gifted in a season of deep hunger. You think about how different this is from online grocery orders. And also, not really. People still barter, still send food, still say thank you with something edible. Quirky fact: dried shark liver was once considered a delicacy in some Maori coastal villages, usually hung on long poles to ferment gently in sea breezes. You glance down at your full belly and quietly thank the gods of geothermal cooking that you didn't get the shark liver course. A younger man chimes in now, telling a tale about his uncle who once tried to cook a hangi during a lightning storm and nearly lost both eyebrows. Everyone laughs softly, and the old woman shakes her head like she's heard it 20 times before, but her smile says she'd gladly hear it again. There's a rhythm to it all, not just the telling, but the pauses. The hums of agreement. Careful way one story slips into another. Historians still argue whether these post-feast sessions served ritual purposes or were simply the social glue of traditional life. Some say they were religious, others say they were pragmatic places to pass down fishing tricks, weather signs, or secret herb mixtures. Most likely, they were all those things at once. Sacred, mundane, and snack-filled. You shift slightly, adjusting your seat on the sloped earth. The air is cooler now, but not cold. Just crisp. Like the world is gently telling you to stay awake a little longer, but not too long. A breeze moves through the steam vents, brushing against your cheeks, like the memory of a bath. Somewhere faintly, a ruru, a native owl, calls once, then again. No one reacts. Everyone's heard it before. It's just the soundtrack of here. You sip the last of your drink, now lukewarm, and place the mug on the ground beside you. The moss is soft and springy. Your fingers sink into it as you lean back on your palms. Another story begins. Something about a woman who talked to trees. You miss the first few lines, distracted by a falling star that cuts across the sky like someone dragging a needle through dark silk. Your eyelids dip, not fully closed, just low enough to let the voice become the foreground. You let your head fall back and listen, not just to the voice, but to the way it bounces off the low trees, the warm earth, the nearby stones. Like it's being absorbed and echoed all at once. The storyteller pauses. No one fills the silence, not because they don't know what comes next, but because the pause is part of the story. You've begun to understand that now. You glance to your right. A woman is weaving by moonlight, her hands moving slowly, automatically. Not a big project, just a strip of flax being turned into cord. You wonder how many generations of her family have done that. How many strips of cord lie buried in the soil beneath her feet. There's comfort in the quiet repetition of it. Not everything has to be finished. Not every story needs a final twist. Some things are meant to go on and on. Stories, meals, threads, breath. You look up at the moon again. It's dipped a little lower. The steam has thinned even more. And across the hillside, one by one, people have begun to stretch out on mats or cloaks or just the grass. They don't say good night. They just lie back and close their eyes. You think about following them. Not just yet. Maybe after one more tale. Just one. You're full, warm, woven in two. The hush. And somewhere between the stories and the stars, you find a new kind of quiet, one you didn't know you needed. You're still awake, somehow. Not quite alert, but floating, balanced on that soft ledge between listening and dreaming. The steam has faded now to lazy curls. The fire's last coals blink slowly like tired eyes. Most people around you are curled up or nodding off, but a few shapes still move quietly among the sleeping. One person gently adds a log to the edge of the fire. Another carries a folded cloak to a dozing elder. You watch these quiet tasks with a kind of reverence. Nothing is rushed. Everything feels like it belongs exactly where it is. You stretch your legs, feeling the cool press of dew against your ankles. And then you notice something curious. A small group is forming at the edge of the clearing, just where the trees begin to thicken. There's no announcement, no fanfare, just movement. A few figures with bundles slung over their shoulders, woven baskets in hand, and sturdy walking sticks made from smooth driftwood. You recognize one of the elders from earlier, the one who spoke about dried eel and obsidian knives. She nods once, slowly, toward the hillside beyond. You follow them quietly, respectfully. The moss muffles your steps. The night air presses in cool and damp, smelling of ash and earth and crushed ferns. They're heading toward a smaller, more hidden Hangi site. You can see the pit already opened, steam rising in elegant wisps. Inside, instead of food there, are bundles wrapped packages of herbs, dried fish, and something that looks like pressed cakes made of nuts and seeds. Portable, preserved, packed with intention. Trade provisions. Someone whispers beside you. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona, ancestral pueblones once prepared their own bundles for long journeys across arid landscapes, often storing parched cornmeal, Salt and dried squash in baskets sealed with pitch or wrapped in cloth. They too move through networks of barter and exchange, not just for survival, but for relationship, for ceremony, for news. Here, beneath the New Zealand moonlight, you get a glimpse of that same rhythm. A rhythm that spans oceans. The group finishes packing. Each person checks their bundle, tying the last knot, adjusting the weight on their shoulders. No one rushes. It's a ritual as much as a preparation. You spot something strange tucked into one of the bundles, a preserved fishtail wrapped in flax, tied at the end with a feather. A charm? A marker? No one says. Historians still argue whether these additions were purely symbolic, functional, or both. Some claim they marked origin points. Others say they were protective charms. Or maybe, just maybe, they were personal touches, like a child sneaking a toy into a suitcase. The group sets off, winding quietly into the night. They follow a narrow path carved into the grass and pumice, disappearing behind a rise. You don't follow this time. Something about the moment tells you this is not your journey. Not tonight. So you sit on a stone and watch the stars. You start to imagine those same kinds of routes, spidering across the old volcanic plateaus, connecting villages and families and trade allies. Over generations, patterns would form. Who had the best dried berries, who always overcharged for salt, which route was safest during early spring rains. Invisible maps passed down through stories and steps. You trace a line in the dirt with your finger, following where your mind has wandered. One line becomes 3, then 6. You add small circles for cooking sites, triangles for shelter rocks. It's not accurate. It's not even intended to be. But something about it feels right. A soft laugh startles you. It's the weaver again. The woman with the moonlit flax cord. She nods at your drawing. They never drew the maps, she says. They danced them. Or sang them. You blink. The idea feels obvious and enormous at the same time. Songs as roots, steps as directions. A rhythm to guide the body while the land guides the soul. You want to ask her more, but she's already gone again. Her woven bundle now resting by the fire, her hands busy twisting another length of cord. The breeze picks up. It smells of salt now. Not strongly, but just enough to make you think of the coast. The place the traders were walking toward. You picture them arriving at dawn, steam rising behind them, sea mist greeting them from ahead. You wonder what they'll trade. You wonder what they'll bring back. A carved shell? A different song? Or maybe just a better way to wrap a food bundle so it doesn't leak mid-hike. You hear a bird call sharp. Short. Hidden in the trees. Maybe a kiwi. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. You lie back, once again feeling the slope of the land under your spine, the slight damp chill of moss through your cloak. This time, you notice how well your body fits the earth, like a puzzle piece clicking softly into place. No mattress, no sleeping bag. Just warmth from the day still rising faintly from the soil. Someone passes you a bit of dried fruit wrapped in leaf. You eat it without question. It's tart and chewy, and unexpectedly perfect. Across the fire, someone begins humming a new tune. It's not a lullaby, but it will do. The notes drift like smoke, curling into the spaces between stars. You don't know the words if there even are any, but you hum along anyway, quietly, sleepily. And the world hums with you. You shift your weight on the moss-covered stone, eyes half-lidded now. The embers still glow, pulsing gently like breathing coals. The feast is long over, but the night lingers, and with it, the stories. A few people have gathered closer around. The hearth, drawn in like moths to low flame and high tail. No one makes a formal announcement. No introductions. The first story simply begins mid-sentence, as if it had already started days ago and you're just now tuning in. It's about a taniwa. You've heard the word. Before creatures of river and cave, shape-shifting protectors or troublemakers depending on their mood or the behavior of the locals. This Taniwa, apparently, was partial to stealing cooking stones, not food, not treasures. Just the hot, round stones used for Hangi. Every time a village tried to cook, the stones would vanish before sunrise. The storyteller pauses to sip something, warm from a carved wooden cup, then continues, so they started marking the stones, first with paint, then with carvings. One woman even wrapped her stones in dog fur. But the Taniwa didn't care. You smile in the dark. You're not sure if this is myth or mischief, but honestly, that's the point. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona, ancestral Puebloan oral traditions also carried stories like this, blending the practical with the enchanted. There were Kashina spirits who danced in storms and taught farming rituals, trickster figures who tangled with the sun, and guardian beings who protected sacred springs. You suspect every culture has its version of a Taniwa with a sense of humor and a deeply inconvenient habit. The fire crackles. A new story begins. This one's not about monsters. It's about migration, about a family forced to leave their village after a rock slide buried the upper terraces. They carried nothing but a single gourd of water, 3 roots, and a small carved pendant shaped like a spiral. Spirals again. You've been seeing them everywhere lately, etched in stone, drawn in ash, pressed into woven mats. Historians still argue whether the spiral represented water, direction, ancestry, or the stars. Or maybe it was all of them, layered like meanings in a dream. You start to doze off a little, but catch yourself. You don't want to miss this next tale. It's a silly 1. A child chasing a chicken through a cooking pit, knocking over the mat covering and accidentally uncovering the meal an hour early. Chaos ensues. A grandmother faints. The chicken gets away. You chuckle softly, eyes closed. Even here so far from 'em. Supermarkets and microwaves, there were mealtime disasters. And poultry-related crime scenes. You remember burning toast in your own kitchen last week and feel oddly connected across the centuries. Now a chant begins. It's low and repetitive. More rhythm than melody. Some people sway. One person taps a stick gently against the ground. It's not for performance. It's for memory. The chant tells the story of a mountain and a cave, and someone who went in but never came out the same. You lose track of the details. You don't need to follow every word. The cadence itself is enough to lull you, to wrap your mind in quiet spirals. The steam from a nearby vent curls upward again. You watch it pass in front of the moon, turning silver, then vanishing. You imagine the stories rising with it, carried on hot air, traveling across ridges and ravines, whispering into sleeping ears. In that moment, you wonder, will anyone ever tell a story about you? Will someone mention the odd traveler who once sat quietly through a feast, asked curious questions, and drew crooked trade routes in the dirt with their finger? Probably not. But maybe your presence will become part of a different story one. That doesn't need a name or a plot. Just a moment, a mood. The gentle hum of someone listening. Someone nearby begins to snore lightly. Another coughs, then settles again. You hear the rustle of someone adjusting a blanket made of woven flax and wool. The storyteller finally rests their voice. The silence returns, thick but kind. Above, the stars have shifted slightly. Orion has tipped to one side. The Southern Cross has begun its arc. You lie back again, pressing one ear to the cool earth. And now, you hear it. Not voices. Not birds, but the sound beneath everything, the hum of geothermal breath, the ancient inhale and exhale of volcanic lungs. This place isn't still. It only pretends to be. Even asleep, the mountain remembers. You picture the ancestors, not as ghosts, but as watchers, friendly ones. Sleepy, maybe, but still present, still interested. One more story is whispered, not to the group, but to a sleeping child beside the fire. You only catch a piece of it, a fish that flew, a stone that sang, a dog that guarded an entire bay by barking in 7 tones. You smile again. 7 is impressive. The child stirs and then sinks back into sleep. You follow, letting your breath match. The mountains. Letting your thoughts wander into the dream space where taniwa and recipes mingle freely, where chicken thieves and spirit dancers share the same. Dusty Road. Sleep is not just something that happens to you now. It's something that joins you, called forth by chant, warmed by story, softened by earth. The fire crackles one last time, then pauses. You let your eyelids fall. You've heard enough for tonight. You're still here. The fire's a whisper now, not a voice, just the occasional soft crack of a drying branch. The heat that once danced on your cheeks now lingers faintly in the air, like a memory of warmth rather than the warmth itself. The last embers pulse quietly beneath the ash, like a heartbeat that knows it's almost time to rest. You're lying near the edge of the circle, a woven flax mat beneath you and a rolled cloak behind your head. The earth is firm but forgiving, the kind of surface that reminds you you're a creature of weight and breath and slowness. And it's here, just as your thoughts begin to dissolve into mist, that you notice the ground is still warm, not hot, not alarming, just warm. The steam vents, though quieter at night, continue to whisper. You can feel them more than hear them. Tiny exhales rising through the soil, reminders that the world beneath is always moving. The air smells faintly of sulfur, pine smoke, and roasted something. You're not hungry anymore, but the scent is still comforting. The stars above are brighter now. No clouds, no roof beams to block them. Just pinpricks in the velvet dark, scattered like hand-thrown seeds. You spot a few, Orion, Pleiades, that one you think might be Venus, but might also be a plane in any other life. Here, it's definitely Venus. Someone nearby stirs, pulling their cloak tighter. Another breathes deeply, asleep and anchored. The stories have stopped, but their echoes remain. You can still feel them in the quiet. Not the words, exactly, but the rhythm. That gentle sense of being told to, of someone guiding you without pulling you. Softly, patiently, like a lullaby wrapped in soil and steam. In the southwestern region of the United States, including small states such as Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona, ancestral cliff dwellings hold this same stillness. Not silence, but intentional quiet. The kind that comes after shared meals and long walks, after songs and stories. The kind that settles into corners and under lintels, curling around the edges of carved beams and stone walls. You can almost feel yourself there too, nestled in a cool room. Soot-lined, a map beneath your shoulders, stars filtering through. A high window. The two places blur. One steam-warmed earth shelter, one sandstone sleeping chamber. Different lands, different peoples, but the same exhale. The same ease. Your breathing matches it now. Slow, long. No rush to be anywhere else. The warm ground has stories of its own. It doesn't need to speak them aloud. They rise through your bones if you let them. You close your eyes again, drifting just slightly. Your arms go weightless. Your jaw softens. There's a lull in the breeze, and for a moment, the night holds its breath. Then the wind shifts gently and resumes. You hear it brushing through the flax, over the shoulders of sleeping guests, curling through the low scrub beyond the clearing. You imagine it slipping into old places, abandoned kitchens, rock-cut shrines, collapsed trails, and nudging their dust back into motion. The moon has crossed the sky now, settled near the peaks. Its light is colder, crisper, but not unfriendly. You roll onto your side, facing a steam vent that glows faintly in the starlight. The warmth radiating from it is gentle, enough to notice, enough to soothe your knees and toes in the last corners. A thought still whispering for attention. This place does not require you to do anything, not even. Sleep.justbe. No passwords, no alarms, no list to prep for the morning. Only this moment. You breathe, you sigh. You feel the last stories loosening from your shoulders, floating into the night to join the others. Here, beneath the stars and above the ancient heat of the earth, you are perfectly unimportant and endlessly welcomed. You fall asleep. And now, you drift deeper. Let your limbs go soft, your breath go slow. Let the quiet settle like dust in a sunbeam, warm and undisturbed. The earth beneath you is steady, ancient, patient. It's held thousands of sleepers like you, carried their dreams, their snores, their slow midnight turns from one side to the far other, and it holds you now, gently, without judgment. You don't need to remember every story. You don't need to name every star. You don't need to hold on to anything at all. Let the steam fade into mist. Let the chants become soft echoes. Let the fire's last ember wink out with the confidence that it will be rekindled when needed. You are not lost. You are just resting, floating between memory and dream, between Hangi stones and starlight, between the quiet past and the gentle present. Tomorrow the world will return, with noise, with light, with the clatter of screens and the hum of everything electric. But not yet. For now you are still in the steam-warmed soil, beside the whispered tales and the drifting sleep of elders. So let your shoulders drop. Let your thoughts fade. Let your breath be the only thing you carry, and sleep. Peaceful, easy, warm.